I'm going to review John Saul's The Devil's Labyrinth.
That's not John Ralston Saul. This is just the novelist, a much more successful novelist than John Ralston Saul. John Ralston Saul is kind of like a novelist who pretends to be a non-fiction writer, poor fellow.
Anyway.
He's a public intellectual of sorts here in Canada.
I listened to the Playaway thing, so I was listening to that everywhere I was going.
And you finished
Walking
it up
around.
then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's impressive. You really got a lot of stuff done today.
I didn't do that all in one day.
No, but you did a lot of stuff.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Oh, okay. But you were listening to a lot of stuff. You got a lot of miles, and 5.8 miles, I think is what you said.
5.88.
Wow, see, 5.9.
Anyway, I have a bit
Impressive.
of a headache, so James is going to do most of the talk.
It's bothering your right eye again, eh?
What was this?
Yeah.
Since menopause. It's the same thing. I don't get migraines anymore. I get these cluster headaches. It's weird.
We're not sure what
Anyway.
causing this particular one. It might have just been it was pretty warm inside last night.
Yeah.
It didn't really cool down, and it's a little bit hard to adjust, because you usually assume it's going to cool down in a short while. Anyway,
Catholicism mixed with Islam has never been so entertaining as since the Spanish Inquisition or something, as in this novel.
Oh, in here it's Catholicism and Islam, eh? The Devil's Labyrinth. So it's a horror story, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I don't think of Islam as being much into horror stories. A lot of the stuff horror stories seem to be Catholic in nature. The Exorcist, that sort of stuff. I don't know.
But anyway.
About possession.
I don't think. Truth is a lot scarier than fiction, I suppose. And
I know.
I don't think John Saul did enough research to write this up.
Where the hell is this set?
But I did enjoy the interview at the end of the book. And I have a theory on why his stories with children as the
protagonist,
I suppose, but anyway, they tend to be, his stories focus on children as main characters in the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the interviewer was asking him about that, and he had some answer, but I think, it worked for him. He does it again, right?
Sure.
Why not? I think it's because a lot of children are reading the stories. I know I read horror stuff when I was 10.
You were reading Stephen King recently.
And John Saul.
Right. Oh, it goes back that far. Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have much to say about it. I wouldn't recommend it. Even listening to it as an audiobook was actually quite boring.
Yeah.
But if you're into Catholic sort of horror stories, then I guess maybe you'll like that.
So this dude's been around since this is 2007, since you were 10. It's amazing. Barely noticed him just in the last few years.
Yeah. Anyway, go
I
ahead
didn't
with
start noticing Stephen King until Cujo or something like that. That's in the 80s. Almost 40 years ago.
No, he had a few things that were
Stephen
popular
King?
before them.
Oh, of course. I think he started making it in the 70s. I mean, Cujo was made into a movie. So that means he'd had some sort of success that would have got producers getting the money together to put a movie out. Movies aren't cheap to make. At least Hollywood type of movies. And you know, it's funny. You can always tell when people are don't really believe in democracy. They start hammering on Hollywood. They should be doing this. They should be doing that. Don't watch it. It's that simple. Does it really affect the way people think? Well, if it does, they're not worth having on your side. So, what's the point? Watch something else. You don't have to pay the fortune that it costs to get movies. You don't have to get them over Netflix or whatever they've got here in Canada. Just don't watch this stuff. But you watch right-wingers, they hate Hollywood. Hollywood's all about propaganda. Left-wingers, they hate Hollywood. It's all about propaganda. You watch Muslims, they hate Hollywood, at least the fundamentalist type, because it's all about propaganda.
It's just
Don't watch it. It's just entertainment. And what they do is they sell what sells.
If it's not entertaining you, then find something else to entertain yourself with.
And you know, don't bother trying to boycott them. All that's going to happen is the people who watch this stuff are going to get PO'd at you. The thing to do is if you're a right winger, people want to watch some Hollywood film that portrays you as being what you are. You're an asshole. Right? Pardon my French. Pardon my English. If you're a left winger and you're not getting people like watching you portrayed as an asshole, it's because you're an asshole. If you're a Muslim fundamentalist and you don't like the way you're being portrayed and people like watching you portrayed as an asshole, it's because you're an asshole. So the thing to do is don't change your image, change what you are. Change what you are. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a corporatist asshole. People hate corporatist assholes. You notice Hollywood, what they do is so often they'll have, they're a corporation, but what sells is stuff that attacks corporations. And they will gladly do it. They're not into propaganda in that sort of way. There's all sorts of films that attack corporations.
No, they just want to make money.
They'll make money off of that.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't affect the way people still vote in the Republican Party 50% of the time, even though Hollywood's out there attacking corporations. Doesn't make a heck of a difference. You know, like you check out when hate crimes against Muslim burgeoned, and they burgeoned in this millennium, and it went through two gulps, and it had nothing to do. It wasn't when they did Black Friday or whatever it was, Black September. I can't remember what it was. I don't think there was much of a blip. What happens?
I think Black Friday is that shopping day.
Yeah, I can't remember. There was some film where some Muslim terrorists were going to blow up a stadium or something like that using a Goodyear blimp.
Oh.
And all it was an advertisement for Goodyear blimps, or whatever kind of blimp it was. You know what I'm saying? It was just, you flashback to this blimp that was going to blow up. Something like that. What happened was 9/11, and then ISIS. Those, you look at the stats, these are FBI stats, maybe they're making it up, I don't think so. And you'll see, like hate crimes against Muslims was off the radar down here. And then it blipped up after 9/11, and then it really blipped up after ISIS, because ISIS was doing this again and again and again, snuff videos and stuff like that on the internet. So if you're a Muslim and you want to control your image, control ISIS and control Al-Qaeda. The United States shouldn't have to go after Al-Qaeda. They should never have had to. Like when Christian type of people, they weren't very Christian, but Germans were giving lots of people trouble. Christians went, or people that kind of were from the Christian tradition, and settled their hash. I want to see you Muslims do that with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Go and settle their hash. Why should we have to do it? For Pete's sake. Because it's not just good for us and for the rest of the world, it's good for you. Now understand, when the hate crimes blipped up in after 9/11 and during ISIS and after ISIS, you see, it's a ratcheting. It doesn't really go down that much. That's why you guys should be taking it seriously, you Muslims. You should be settling the hash of those guys. Instead of going, like 60% of us, 77% of us, 80% of us around the world kind of support Osama bin Laden. That's appalling. After 9/11. Whoa, he really took on the Americans. Yeah. Okay. So, but you check it out. And the FBI statistics indicate, you ask the average person, especially the Fogoshes, what's the, in North America, or the United States, what group has the, per capita, the most hate crimes against? Oh, it's Muslims! No, it's not. No, it's not. Actually, black people have as much, or maybe a little bit more. But they're only second. It's Jews. It's Jews. And Jews are sitting at least 50% higher than blacks and Muslims in terms of hate crimes directed against them. I understand it's per capita. Yeah, and it's blacks and Muslims that are doing a lot of the hate crimes against Jews, I gotta say. It's true. This show is too true to be good. Too true to be good. It's a lot of other people. I mean, there's militia types, so on and so forth. But there's the stat for you. The important thing is, don't do stuff that'll make you unpopular, that'll make Hollywood want to portray you, or your group that you that represents you or something like that as bad. Just don't do bad stuff. It's that simple. Okay, I'm going to re-review this because I think we cut out before I was able to explain. It was Agatha Christie. I'm going through it. Yesterday I blasted through 43 pages. I figured with all the stuff I did for it, it was something like 10 hours of work, or so on and so forth. I was setting up. I have to do some stuff in terms of drawing lines and so on and so forth. About 10 hours of work, and the way I read it, like I go through the not the original, the translation, in this case the French, 4 times, and I'll go through the English once, and twice when I go through. Once I go through and I read it through once, then I will go through the second time, writing in what I figure the words are translated in English, and then I'll go through a third time, where I'll read it in the original English, go back and forth. I'll treat it like a bilingual, and I'll go through it again a 4th time, just reading. And usually I'll read it a little faster than I went through it the first time when I read it the 4th time, because I've figured out the words and I'm not having to struggle over them and stuff like that. So these are fairly short pages, but it basically takes me about a minute to go through one of these pages. Not one with a picture on it, but a minute to go through, which is roughly what I'd take to go through English of comparable thing. So I'm getting fairly good at the French. There are huge whacks of people who don't even have French as a native language who are way better at it than I am. But I'm trying, and it's to the point where I can read whatever. And what I want to say is I was reviewing it as well as previewing, because I read this originally, Le Crime de Laurent Express, I finished up at the 21st of August 2019. Those were the days, pre-COVID days. And then, but I refinished it, I've got here, the 19th of September 2020. So 2 years later, launched into it. And so I just read it. I don't know how long it took me to go through it like that. So eventually, when I'm all finished this process, I'll have gone through the French, 6 times, and I'll have gone through the English for a second time. I went through it when I was a teenager. My favorite reading when I was a teenager was after I graduated from Hardy Boys at age 13. So Pauline was a lot more precocious when it comes to her reading between age 10 and 13. Well, Stephen King's way more challenging than Hardy Boys.
I don't know about that.
Well, the original Hardy Boys actually had a fairly challenging vocabulary. They dumbed it down, simplified it down, whatever, when they started rewriting them somewhere in the late 50s.
The only reason I could read it is because it was exciting.
Yeah, well, exactly right.
It kept me reading.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'll read Agatha Christie when I'm learning a language, because even though I've read this stuff, you're going, how did she manipulate it? So there's a little bit of a plot dragging you along, right?
Yeah.
So even though I'm a kind of person who just
honestly,
slogs
James,
through stuff,
I had tried reading Agatha Christie when I was young.
Yeah.
And I was bored with it. It didn't keep me as entertained as I needed to be to keep going.
Yeah. It's going to vary. People have got different tastes. So
I mean,
for me, it was from age 13 to about age 20. This was Agatha Christie was the kind of novels I read, and then after that, it was like Dickens, and that's when I started to read a book a day. I formed my Book of the Day Club. It had only one member, so far as I know, and that was me. So I'd try to get through a book a day. Didn't matter if it was 200 pages or 800 pages. Anyway, when you're dealing with Dickens, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. It's more like 300 or 800. And I was pretty good at doing that. I kind of wasn't able to sustain that because I was going to university. But during the summer of 1974, when I turned 20, or just after I turned 20, I kept it up. But so it helps for me to have something to drag me along, some sort of plot or excitement or whatever. But I'm
saying you were a better reader then than I was, for sure.
Maybe.
Like even now, my mind, if I'm reading something and I'm bored, my brain starts making up its own story.
Yeah, I know. I tend to have that happen when I'm drifting off. I'll be saying, it'll make it more interesting or whatever. And then I'll wake up and I'll say, oh, like I was reading a totally different story. Quite literally, I was making up words. So I slog through things a lot better now than I used to. I found, I try to read the Bible. This is after I'd given up the whole thing. And I just find myself, it wasn't making stuff up, it was just thinking about other things. I wonder, like what sort of sandwich I should make for myself. That sort of stuff, Okay. But I'm a lot better at slogging, so this is going to be a segue into Blackfoot Grammar. I was reviewing this the other day, and I'd mentioned that I want to, like I was saying, I was reading it, so it's a preview, but that's going to be a preview for me reviewing it when I finished it for the 5th time. So when I took the course back in somewhere around 2015 or something like that, I read it 3 times, and I got something like 94% on the final, which is, or on my final mark, which is the 2nd highest mark in the class. It was higher than any of the Blackfoot speakers there. The person who got the highest mark got 106%. That's 12% higher than me. But she'd already finished up her studies in linguistics. It'd be linguistics minor. How good was she in linguistics? I'm told that she was accepted in a linguistics program at Yale University. So she'd already finished it up. This was my first course in linguistics. The guy, Don France. We both knew his son, right?
I wanted
Jeff's
to talk
awesome.
about what you were saying about telling people, well, if you're a part of a group, like if you're a Muslim and you know, people are treating you badly because you're a Muslim. Well, you might not be a bad person who's doing bad things. You just happen to be, and that's not fair, you know?
It's not fair. That's right. People should take people as they are instead of classifying them as a group and so on and so forth.
Exactly. So it's not fair.
Yeah.
And like this, we've been talking recently about, I mean, we see drug deals out the window of my house.
All sorts of the windows. I mean, it's not just the window. We've seen them out of 3 windows. So, yeah.
And, you know, all sorts of things. So,
I'm sure we've seen some out of the front windows too.
It's
awful.
It's so obvious.
Yeah. So that's what happens when you get a supervised overconsumption site, but go on.
We were talking about I mean, you see most of the time they're of 1 or 2 ethnicities
involved.
Yeah.
And the second one is shocking. Because there's no excuse. No. Absolutely none. Their presence here dates back in serious numbers. They come from 2 different places, from what I can tell. But in serious numbers, actually, it's the ones that I've seen here wouldn't be coming from the Sudan.
Yeah, okay.
They'd be coming from Nigeria, just based on the color. But yeah.
What do you do, right? I mean, this is what you see. You're living in town, and really, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be more positive influences. Shown to the public so that they can say, okay, not everyone is like that, even though that's who I see all the time. Right? Because what do you do? I mean, if you are from that ethnic group and you're not like that, you're not out there drug dealing, well, you can't possibly stop them from drug dealing. It's unrealistic.
The whole thing is what they should be saying is, you know, like there's an issue with Haitians coming in. 16,000 crossing illegally, I gather, into the United States unannounced. And they're not coming from Haiti. They're coming from places like Brazil and Argentina. If you come from a certain ethnic group, it's not in your interest. It's not in anyone's interest except a small few to let in the worst exemplars of whatever group you belong to. You don't, as a Muslim, you don't want people who support ISIS or Al-Qaeda in Canada or in the United States or in Europe. They will give you a bad name, and people will start getting tired of getting hunted by Al-Qaeda, and they will come looking for you.
How can we do anything?
Well, you see what happens is they're saying, let them all in.
Who's saying that?
Muslims are. Let them all in. What they should be doing is crying to the Canadian government. control the borders. Don't let the bad people in. It's a similar thing with Latin America. They're wanting the borders open. It's bad for everyone, particularly you guys.
Yeah.
Really Latinos are apparently escaping from gangs. Total open borders. What's to stop the gangsters coming in after them?
I mean, I can understand people...
And ganging up on everyone.
I doubt that the people living on the reserves want the people who've come to be drug dealers here
They do.
back in. They don't want them back in. Why would they want them on the reserve?
Okay, I thought you were talking about the cartels.
Oh.
Huh?
I mean, they don't want those... Why would they want those kind of people? If they're good people on the reserve, they don't want to have to deal with bad people.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if this is what the rest of the public is seeing all the time,
wow,
then this is what the public thinks of all of them. They all get painted with this brush. And what do you do? What do you do?
When we're talking about indigenous people...
I mean, how they can't possibly control the...
No, that's a different situation.
What can they do?
Because they're indigenous, and they're indigenous here.
Yeah.
But when they're coming from elsewhere...
Well, yeah, there's that.
They should just be begging for controls.
I know.
Tight controls. Instead of saying, let everyone in. Let everyone in. No. The gangsters from Latin America will follow them in. Anyway, in many cases, they'll be leading them in. And they won't just be going after fellow Latinos. They'll be going after everyone. Classic example is Italians. We were careless about letting Italians in. We were careless. All sorts of wonderful Italian people. But we let the mafia in. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? We were so careless. Here's examples. This goes back to the 80s. The most stupid. How did these folks ever get in? These people. Now I'm talking about the worst cases that I've seen. Let me see. Oh yeah, there was a guy. I was working with him. He was a janitor. He'd been a garbage collector. Didn't know how to drive. They had 2-man vehicles. And with the city of Lethbridge, they went to 1-man vehicles. He didn't know how to drive. They tried to find a place for him where he had some skills, where he could actually work. Guy couldn't read. I don't know if he could read Italian, but he couldn't read English. How did he make it into Canada? I don't know. He didn't bring any skills. So he's doing janitorial work. Janitorial. The only skill you need, really, is just to make sure that you don't catch some sort of bug like hepatitis. Okay. Now, or spread it around, or whatever. Now, I can remember this dude, this is about 1985, asking, just generally, there were 3 janitors at that point in time, and I think our foreman was there. The 4 people there. This is just before work started. And he was saying, who's the smartest guy 50 years ago? I'm going, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so I think